Good afternoon, friends. In the previous session, we had understood the procedure, the required procedure that for allotment of shares related terminologies. We also understood in allotment of shares what is exactly principles that statutorily to be followed by the public sector company and the general principles that require to be followed by a company. In today's lecture, I'm going to share with you the important procedure for allotment of shares. In that case, allotment of shares procedure that we are going to understand, which we have exactly observed in the previous lecture also in a rapid manner, because in previous sessions I just discussed the general principles and what the statutory conditions. So that statutory conditions also tells you about the procedure. Similar on the similar line, we are going to follow this procedure, and I'm going to discuss with you the first of all the required procedure from chronological order while making the allotment of shares. As I told you, the secretary have to take lead in the procedure of allotment of shares. Board of directors also pass a resolution for that purpose. Board committee sit for the that particular meeting and they decide by what means that we are going to allot the shares to the or whatever the basis will be followed for allotment of shares, that is discussed by them. Policies are formulated, decided by the company directors, and what they have to do. The first procedure in the allotment of shares is appointment of allotment committee. Appointment of allotment committee is very important, and that committee is decided by the board of directors of the company. Board of directors of the company, and board of directors informs, and also secretary is also involved in that particular committee. The what given in your textbook, if the issue is at par, मतलब जब issue आपका at the face value होगा, subscribed or undersubscribed, the board can do the allotment of shares. But if the issue is oversubscribed, the board has to appoint an allotment committee. So in which case the allotment committee is necessary, that is given when issue is oversubscribed. मतलब आपने, if you have if you have decided to offer 10,000 shares and applications received for 12,000 shares, at that time what is the oversubscription? Applications are more received for the 10,000 issue only. So in that case, in this case only, the policy of allotment must be decided. For that purpose, the allotment committee is prepared, or the committee who will take responsibility of allotment of these shareholder of these shares to the shareholder is decided. So that oversubscription case, if it is there, the allotment committee is mandatory. In other case, they also told you that if the issue is at par or undersubscribed, the board can do the allotment of shares. Means what? The board of director itself can make the allotment of shares if there is a issue is at par in a prescribed manner, and the subscribed matlab means what, issue as part at par subscribed means what, if 10,000 shares are decided to be issued and similar number of shares are applied by the general public, in that case there is not necessity of appointing any committee, board, any other committee for allotment. So in that case, and in case of under subscription, if in this case 10,000 shares which have been decided to be issued, if the applications come 9,000 for 9,000 shares only, then it is under subscription. So at par subscribed and under subscribed, in these two cases, the allotment committee appointment is not necessary. Board can itself make the allotment. So that is the first step. Number two, hold board meeting to decide basis of allotment. Hold board meeting to decide what? To decide basis of allotment. Allotment basis must be decided for what this issue of shares or allotment of shares. So if it is in the case of over subscription, they must decide how to allot these shares. If they have decided to give the shares to every person, then it must be in the ratio, particular ratio. If he has demanded for 10 shares, and the subscription, if a person is demanded 10 shares and the number of applications are double, so that person can be allotted 5 shares and every person will get the share. So like that, basis or pro rata allotment can be possible. Or the other case, in the other case, the policy might be like that: the first person who is applying from the date of issue, first person who is applying for the shares can get the shares first preferentially, with the getting the first preference. And the person who have applied lately for that particular shares, then his application kept aside. So that is also holding the or preparing this basis of allotment. There is a requirement of a board meeting. So board meeting is held to approve the allotment formula suggested by the allotment committee. A representative of SEBI is also appointed for that purpose. So representative also will be there for deciding that preparation of that particular allotment formula. If the shares are listed, the formula has to be approved by the authorities of concerned stock exchange. As I told you, the while making the first issue by the public company, they have to apply for they have to apply in the recognized stock exchange for the getting listed their company in that particular stock exchanges. If it is happen that they if the shares are listed, and if shares are listed in a recognized stock exchange, that stock exchange, concerned stock exchange authorities will be involved while making this allotment of shares, and they will be also there in the board meeting for deciding basis of allotment. Number 3, pass board resolution. Pass board resolution. Now, if the meeting is held by the board of directors with the representative of SEBI and with the representative of stock exchange, if there is a policy decided, particular formula is decided of allotment, at that time there must be a resolution. Okay, without resolution, there is no point in holding that particular meeting. So they have to get the signature of that particular persons while making the resolution, or the we have to get the conclusion of that particular meeting. So it is a fruitful for the further purpose. At the board meeting, a resolution is passed to allot the shares. The resolution also authorizes the secretary to issue the letters of allotment and letter of regret. Now, in this particular resolution, there is two conclusions can come to know: that to whom the allotment letter must be sent. Allotment letter must be sent, and a letter of regret to whom it is given. Means what? That if the allotment letter, the person who is going to be a member of the company, shareholder of the company is going to reward the shares of the company to that person, allot the shares to that particular person, they will be getting the allotment letter. If the person is not getting the shares from the company, the letter must be sent by the company is letter of regret along with the application money which he or she has paid to the company in the office. So that letters are decided, signed by the board of directors and signed by the secretary. Number four, fourth step is collection of allotment money. So while collection of allotment money, allotment money must be uh, that along with the allotment letter, the person who is getting the shares will pay the amount to the that concerned bank in which he has paid the application money. So what amount of allotment money must be sent by the must be deposited by the allotee, the person now will be called as allotee. The person, so shareholder who is going to be shareholder of the company will be called as allotee. That allotee will be informed that what amount to be paid in the company to be deposited into the bank for getting the shares, and after the application money it is a second installment which have been informed through the allotment letter to the allotee, to the shareholder of the company. When he pays that money, that will be collected in the particular specified bank which have been given. The period also is mentioned in the allotment letter. So specified period of time is communicated to that particular person. Number five, arrangement of relating to the letters of renunciation. Arrangement of of uh, arrangement relating to letters of renunciation. यहाँ पे इसे रिनाउंसिएशन भी बोला जाता है. सो दिस रिनाउंसिएशन मीन्स द पर्सन who is going to be shareholder instead of the person who has been allotted. So, in short, it is a nominee. The person automatically he doesn't want to purchase that shares. Instead of he has applied, but he wants to give that shares to the other party, other person of the similar value, and in that case, the arrangement of renunciation that he gives up his right of that on that particular shares on which he has applied. So that letter must be arranged along with the allotment letter, because if some persons, some members who are going to be members of the company, if they have decided to give up that shares to other party, to other company, to other person, that can be possible in case of letters of renunciation. That letter must be filled by that particular person who have allotted the shares. जिसने ये लेटर ऑफ जिसे ये अलॉटमेंट लेटर हमने भेजा है, उस पर्सन ने ये लेटर ऑफ रिनाउंसिएशन भरना चाहिए, फुलफिल करना चाहिए, एंड दैट कॉपी मस्ट बी sent to the what the applicant has to fill up the form of renunciation and submit it with the original copy of the letter to of the letter of allotment to the company. After approval from the board, secretary enters the name, the new allottees in the application and allotment list. So the person who has allotted the shares, he also sent the whatever the amount of that allotment money, and he gives up that rights. He fulfill that form of fulfill the form of what renunciation. It is a letter of renunciation sent by the arranged by the company, but form is sent to that particular person. He fill that form and send it back to the company. So he will be enrolled, the person whose name is fulfilled, the representative, the person who is going to be new allottee, who is going to be, that person's name will be entered. In his name the shares will be allotted. Okay, now number 6, arrangement relating to splitting of arrangement relating to splitting of allotment of letters. Sometimes applicant who has been allotted shares can request for splitting of allotment letters, mean dividing. Splitting means putting the shares in one or more name. That means he divides the that particular number of shares in the different. So he can request for that particular forms. Then after getting the approval of board of directors for the splitting, secretary enters the details of the split into the list of split allotments. That means the shares are divided. If the I have purchased the shares and I want to divide it into my relatives, supposed to be father, mother, or whoever uh, related in my relation, so that will be splitted, the share number of shares will be splitted into the three persons name, and that will be sent to the names will be sent to the company with the arrangement of these letters, that also similar to the letter of renunciation. Next is a file, a return of allotment. That is, file means what? To file, not other what we can say, take the meaning of it, that file return of allotment. Number 7, it is file return of allotment. So in that case, secretary has to file return of allotment with register of company, that is ROC, who is the authority for every state, within 30 days of allotment of shares. After deciding in the meeting, board meeting, the date of that allotment, and the letter is sent to the allotment letter is sent to the number that particular number of shareholders who have been a member, who has been selected as a allottee, that shareholders, new shareholders. So to that persons, from that day, 30 days of allotment of shares, the secretary has to prepare a return of allotment. That is a statement showing to whom the shares are allotted, what is number of shares, date, etc. All particulars must be filled. The return of allotment contains details of allotment of shares, as I told you, names and address of allottees, value of shares allotted, amount paid or payable on each shares, etc. That means whatever the amount collected by the share by the company from the shareholders, balance, that all things are given in the given columns are fulfilled and signed by the board of directors and secretary, and send it to the ROC, that is a register of companies. And last step, eighth step, that procedure, eighth step is prepare a register of members. Prepare what? Prepare what? A register of members and sending share certificate, or preparation of share certificate first. that arrangement is must be made by the secretary. Share certificate prepare करना पड़ता है. That if we have decided in 30 days we have filed return of allotment, we have the list of shareholders, how many shares are given to them, and also we have repaid the amount to the shareholders who have refunded amount to that shareholder, that particular applicants who have not been allotted. So that also procedure have been comes to an end. The fully what we can say minimum subscription we have received, that all things we have completed as per the conditions of allotment of shares. If it is fulfilled, properly completed, if it is without breaking any conditions and rules of regulations of the SEBI, it is completed, then only we can go to this last step, that is a preparation of register of members. Yeah, preparation of register of members must be necessary. That for what purpose? For getting the or keeping the particular list of the shareholders, the new members of the company. It is a required. The list of members is maintained by the company in its registered office for the purpose of inspection in the further period. It can be done. So for that purpose, register of members is also necessary, because all details are filled up in this particular register of members. It is a final list prepared. After the preparation of final list of the shareholders, the name is entered, full address of that shareholders is entered in the register of members. The persons who have applied and allotted get the membership of that company. So they becomes the member of the company. They are the owners of the company. Then we have to give them the share certificate as a proof or evidence that they have allotted number of that much number of shares in a in that particular certificate. We will issue the proof to them. So they can demand for these share certificate, if it is not given in a stipulated period of time. At what is stipulated period of time? That is within 2 months from the allotment of shares. From the allotment of shares, in 30 days we need to give the file the return of allotment with ROC, and from that same date in 2 months we have to send the share certificate to the shareholders of the company, new shareholders of the company. That is the end of procedure of allotment of shareholders. So now I will just share with you the terminology share certificate which is required. The definition is given there. Share certificate, you can see the screen. It is a registered document issued by a company which is an evidence of ownership. It is an evidence of what? Ownership of specified number of shares of the company. That is proper definition of share certificate. It is a prima facie evidence of the title to the shares. Title matlab kya? Ownership. Evidence of title to shares. Matlab that of that shares he is the owner. That particular that up to that particular shares he is the owner of the company, and up to that there is a rights of that company he is holding. So he can vote accordingly in the meetings of the company. That's why it is called as title of shares. Okay, there is a ownership. Then in share certificate we can see this much information, that is the contents of the share certificate. What are the contents of share certificate? As per form sh1 as prescribed under companies share capital and debenture rules 2014, what is given? Following are the contents of share certificate. What are the contents of share certificate? First, name of the company, that's CIN number, that is a incorporation. Then registered office address, folio number, that different sections are made over there. So share certificate, what folio number it is given. If it is decided for the particular class of shares, so folio number is also required. Then share certificate numbers are there. Every share certificate carrying a specified number. Specifically, the separate numbers are there. So if the previous issue is there, in the previous issue, the number of share certificate is the last share certificate number is supposed to be 10,000. After that, if in this fresh issue, first allotee will get 10,001. So the share certificate cannot be duplicate of a similar number. Okay, for that purpose, for that safety purpose, every share certificate number is a different one. Name of member is also provided, and the share certificate, it is in printed format. Nature of share, number of shares, then distinctive number of shares. That means number of shares means what? It is a quantity. Distinctive number means what? From supposed to be 1001 to 1100, it is for 100 shares. So that distinctive numbers are necessary. क्लास ऑफ दैट, नेचर ऑफ शेयर्स, मतलब उस शेयर्स के उस शेयर का नाम क्या है, दैट इक्विटी शेयर, प्रेफरेंस शेयर, वॉट एवर इट मे बी, देन सब टाइप्स मस्ट बी that mentioned in the share certificate. Amount paid on shares, whatever the amount is to be paid have been paid, and what is the balance on that particular shares, that must be mentioned. Common seal, if any, signature of two directors and company secretary must be mentioned in the share certificate. So it is a what common seal, and that is a important what we can say uh, what the company's signature, we can say. So common seal is necessary, and along with that, two directors signature and a company secretary's signature is necessary. So that is all for today. Share certificate we have understood, and procedure of allotment of shares we have understood. In the next lecture, we will come to know how the share certificate looks, and what period of share certificate to be issued, and what are the other conditions related to that, transfer of shares, forfeiture of shares, that concept we will understand in the next lecture. Thank you for listening this lecture.